Here in beautiful downtown Belfast on an excursion from Swanville. Here to take care of some various business here in town. And I thought I would do an update while I'm at it. I had court the other day, and this is regarding, it was jury selection, and it was having to do with the second of 3 charges which were thrown at me the last couple of years. And the first of those charges was for swearing, was for disorderly conduct, for referring to the Belfast police as an inappropriate word. That was dismissed just prior to trial. That was about 2 months ago now, and now we're in the next cycle of trials. So this next case is coming up for me, and this is the one where I am charged with criminal mischief for basically for defending myself when somebody attacked me. A guy on a trike while I was protesting attacked me, and his trike was damaged in the process, and they're trying to blame me for that. He is, and the police are, and the DA. So I had jury selection for that the other day, and it was different than the last time I went through jury selection, or other times I have. We did get as far as jury selection on the first, that swearing case, and it was just, I just ended up hanging out in the courtroom and or the courthouse lobby, and going into the courtroom when like certain questions were asked, or to do the actual jury selection. There were a couple of different cases being handled this thing. That was the case this time as well, but when I got there, after waiting for a bit, I was directed into a back room, and it was because it's a different judge. This judge is Eric Walker, who I've had some very mixed experience with in the past, good and bad, but good some, so fingers crossed. He seems pretty by the book, which I like, in many ways, although he is, like all judges, seem to be very deferential to the DA, and I'll get to that house in just a sec. So we go into this back room, and the reason Judge Eric Walker handles jury selection this way, at least in this case, is because there were several cases, and several of the cases had like different overlapping questionnaires for the jury to fill out, and so we had to get in there, and they had to like go through all the questionnaires, and almost none of it had to do with me. It was mostly just me sitting in that room, listening to them go through numbers and whatnot, and occasionally ask questions, and then waiting out in the either the court room or the courthouse lobby. Quite a dull day, all in all, but we did eventually get to my stuff. And most of what happened, like I said, didn't have to do with me, so I probably shouldn't talk about it, and won't. But at some point, we're back there, and we get to my questions that I want to be asked. Morning. Morning. And so I'm telling me and my attorney we have a couple of questions that we want the jury for our trial to be asked, because I'm representing myself, but I have a co-counsel, which is why I got to go in this back room, see what behind because I'm partly representing myself. And so we get to my questions, and one of them is about protesting, and the judge doesn't understand. That's why this is a criminal mischief case. What do we have a question about protesting? And then the other one was about offensive language. And the first kind of interesting thing that I have a note of here on my paper is I forget which question it was. I wanted to make sure that jurors would not be prejudicial about people protesting, because I was protesting, and some people don't like that. And then about swearing, because both I and the alleged victim did some swearing. I didn't want, thought it'd be good to rule that out. And I forget which one. And then the judge proposed his own question about me representing myself. He thought some jurors might not like that since I was acting as largely as my own representative, but with co-counsel for my attorney. And it was that question. The judge started phrasing it, and he was talking out loud as he was writing down how he hoped to ask it. And he used the word objective. And the DA objected to that word. And he said it was because he thought the word objective was confusing, and he gets confused between objective and subjective sometimes. He gets those terms confused. I just thought that was really interesting. I don't know if he was just trying to be like, look, I'm human too, so, the jury members, I don't know, but I thought that was interesting for a district attorney to be confused about the difference between objective and subjective. I mean, this guy's not like a high school student or just out of law. I mean, he's 60-ish or whatever, been practicing law forever, so I thought that was interesting. And that issue got settled. The question got, written down by the judge successfully. And then we get to the one about, I forget if it was language or protesting, but that's when the judge was like, what's this got to do with a criminal mischief case? And my attorney says, morning, I've got some folks passing by here. I just want to pause because I have something potentially illegal to say, I suppose. Here's the thing. Like I was saying a minute ago, that first charge of mine was because I referred to the Belfast police as the C-bombs. That was literally it. That's what it said on the paper in my charging documents. I made them put it on paper for referring to the Belfast police as C-bombs. So, we're sitting there around this table, the judge, there's a couple of lawyers, there's a couple of clerks, the DA and the junior DA, there's assistant DA, Entwistle, and then there's another new guy at the DA's office who's also an assistant DA, my attorney, me. And in response to this question from the judge about what's protesting and or language got to do with this criminal mischief case, my attorney says, well, my client was protesting. He was carrying a sign that said, "Cops are cunts." And everybody seemed to laugh. They thought it was a joke. It was offered as a joke. Everybody seemed to laugh. I looked over at the judge. I didn't, unfortunately, look over and see if the DA was laughing. That would be pretty ironic, though, because that's even less political. What he said, I didn't say cops are cunts. I actually said Belfast has victim-blaming criminal cunt police. Criminal cunts. So that's a little bit, at least a little bit more explicitly political. But he's just, cops are cunts, and everybody, including the judge, laughs and thinks this is a funny thing. I was facing 6 months in being locked in a cage for saying pretty much those exact words. And here it is, just said like it's a big joke, and everybody thinks it's funny, right in the belly of the beast. And that kind of blew my brain a little bit, I gotta admit. That was pretty messed up. I don't know if my attorney, I didn't ask him about it, whether he was trying to make some point there or not, but he sure did, inadvertently or otherwise. Seriously, they're going to lock me in a cage for 6 months for saying the same thing that he just said everybody thought was a joke. A judge and a bunch of lawyers and clerks. So there's that. Anyway, then as far as the actual question regarding protesting, morning. The first proposal, when the judge was writing it down, he said, well, how about we say this case involves a person exercising their right to protest, and will that affect your ability to be fair and impartial? Would be the question asked to the jury, and that was the judge's initial proposal. And I said, that sounds great. My lawyer said, yeah, that sounds great. And I said, yeah, that sounds great. But the DA's over there scowling, and he objected. And so it got discussed for a bit, and then it got changed to this case involves evidence of someone protesting. And the judge starts writing that down, then I'm thinking like, well, wait a minute, evidence of somebody protesting. We went from person exercising their right to protest to a person, evidence of someone protesting, like you got to hide that or something. It sounds like, And so I started to object, and the judge was writing it down. I said, well, Your Honor, the judge kind of like, just kind of literally like grumbled at me a little bit, looked over at me. And my lawyer jumps in, he says, oh, no, everything that comes in at trial is evidence. It's not going to be a big deal. And so I said, okay, well, if you're not worried about it, But it was just kind of, another little thing with it. DA just gets their way because, just because. That's the way I don't know. And then the next interesting thing that happened is that at the end of jury, you have to ask the jury members. One of the last things that's done is to check with the jury members to see if they know they know the defendant, or they know any of the cops involved, anything like that, and the witnesses, the victims, and how they might, how that might affect their ability to be fair and impartial and all. And so we went through all that, and all of my witnesses are basically our law enforcement, and it's because of a selective prosecution sort of issue. How come sort of, it's very informal here, but why did you let such and such get away with this thing, but I didn't get away with this thing? It's hard to bring into a trial. It's tricky, but that's what most of my witnesses are centered around, the witness part of my case. So, because there weren't really any other people that saw it except for people that are witnesses against me, for now. That's going to change. But for now, they're witnesses against me. Anyway, so he objected to all of my witnesses. He said, I don't think any of these witnesses should be allowed to testify. And the judge said, we better get on that right away if we want to get that done. Just like, not you need to submit a motion and I'll look at it and we'll all have a hearing and decide whether, but we're going to, so the judge is just right on board with that. And I'm sure if I made us think about it, I'm just going to try to get them preserved for trial. I don't think it'll be a huge deal. Hopefully they won't even be critical anyway. But I would like them there, and I have a right to compel them. Later, so we get them impaneled, the jury impaneled, and they're all there. And then later that day, or maybe early the following morning, this all took place on Wednesday, and I get an email from the DA, and he had put in a motion to strike all of my witnesses, and his reason for doing so was judicial economy. That was what he argued. He wants, he doesn't want to waste the court's time. He wants to be judicially economic. He didn't think these witnesses should testify because they weren't directly, very directly involved in the immediate events, and it's just going to, so just for the sake of judicial economy, just to save the court's time and money and everybody's time and everything, we should just strike all the defense's witnesses. And I really, really wanted to write back and respond, well, Bill, and he signed it Bill, because we're buddies now, because we were in the back room together. And I just really wanted to kind of write back, well, Bill, if you were really interested in judicial economy, how about you drop this absurd case you're going to lose in a week anyway? I'm pretty sure he's going to take this one to trial. I think I don't know, for whatever reason, he thinks he has a chance with it. The video doesn't lie. The cop can lie, the witnesses can lie, they can lie. I'm going to be able to show my video. Boom. They're screwed. So, anyway, so there's my update. I hope all of you out there are doing well. And wish me luck. You got a trial almost certainly coming up, I think, on this one. I think, like I said, I think this will go to trial. And that'll be on this Thursday, the 16th of April. And so wish me luck, I guess, and good luck to all of you. And best, thanks for watching. Keep fighting, and peace.